What up, what up? Bear with me as I'm getting started. Everything's set up here. It has been a while, hasn't it? If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments. I will try to get to them as quick as possible. I'm also going to do just a quick kind of thing that just should be helpful for y'all. There's an indicator, well, there's data that TradingView does not allow. Why would TradingView not allow some data? I think that's what we have to think about. Because if I was big market maker and I own TradingView and I knew I had a market edge, what data and why wouldn't I allow some data to be on there? Well, 95% of people gonna not make money, right? So only 5% will. I think it's a good way to hurt a lot of people and get them confused and just having information overload, extreme market overload. Because when you get onto TradingView, there are thousands, tens of thousands of these indicators that you can use. I actually basically turned them all off. I just stopped paying for TradingView because, it gets easier and easier to tell when stuff is overbought and oversold. You can use stuff like volume. When you see big volume, you usually see big what? Price swings, things like that. But the big one I want to talk about today is called gamma. Before that gets too confusing, just bear with me. What are we talking about? All this market chop stuff in here, this is just to screw people over. You get max pain, get them to bleed a little bit, take their money. This is options. The options market, even if you don't understand the options market, you don't have to. But what you can do is get the levels of the option market. And those are going to basically tell us when to sell and when to buy. When to sell, when to buy. So what do? You find a gamma chart. Now, there's lots of paid for places to get gamma information. I suggest trying to find a free one, especially if you're new. You don't need the paid service stuff. You just don't. I mean, there's people charging like $200 a month to see free information. On our Discord, we actually have a bot that will pop in and we can call upon certain tickers. Like here we have SPY. And all this is showing us is the exposure for puts and the exposure for calls. Exposure for puts and the exposure for calls. Big, huge red lines, that's going to be puts, that people betting it's going down. The biggest lines usually get hit and or crossed. Yellow is the stock price. So stock price went below the biggest liquidity here, open interest, right? Zero gamma is basically the flip point. So if price is below this white dotted zero gamma line, the bears are in control. So anything to the left of this, bears are in control. Once it flips above it, so if stock price, this yellow gets above to the right of the zero gamma, the bulls are in control. So what? Short the rips as long as it's under here. But once it gets above the white, what? Go long. Right? It's as simple as that. This is just the line in the sand. Remember in Hook? When Rufio took his sword, placed it in the sand, and said, "Place your bets, boys." It's that easy. Now, you can also play this contrarian way where you can say, wow, is the stock market oversold? Again, we're not looking at price action at all here. This is literally just where's the big money at? Because guess what? The big money is usually always right, correct? So they're the ones who create these massive billion-dollar bets over here that stock's going to go down. Who? Like people like JP Morgan, stuff like that. Big banks. And then the easiest way is just to follow them. It's that easy. Just follow them. Now, the contrarian is like, let's say zero is here, the put wall. So this is where the most amount of liquidity exposure is at. If price action gets below that, you can also start doing like 1 month out or 3 month out or 3 week out calls, because these things like to balance even in a bear market. So if we're in a total bear market, we ain't going up for a long time. We're going to have relief rallies, right? When do those happen? Once we start getting back over here where there's not that much liquidity left. They usually don't even make it here. It's usually going to end up hitting one of these massive volumes at the 1.2 billion like it did. It's way over that actually last week, probably 1.3 or whatever. It might dip a little bit low, which it did. Okay? But it might just hit the second biggest volume. But all you got to know is, okay, the dealers have to rebalance at some point. How do they do that? They start buying equity. They start buying SPY. And they start buying what? Calls, which will then what? Move this call wall here, which will then push us towards the negative or zero gamma here. Okay, so this might be confusing to you because we're just going left to right, which on like TradingView and all charting platforms, left to right is what? Time. Well, on here it's the opposite. Left to right is price. So you got this price of SPY down here. What's up, Shrek? Brandon's in the house. Happy Saturday, everybody. Any questions, put them down in the comments. We're going over zero gamma here and just an alternative way to look at charts. It's way easier to actually learn this than the traditional charting methods. It just is. Just all we're doing here is following the big boys, the billion dollar bettors. Price is going to hit those. Now, remember, option data is not allowed on TradingView. If I was JP Morgan, I would be paying TradingView whatever, $10 million a month or whatever, to make it so retail bros cannot have access to this, or make it harder for them to even think about it, and just flood them with all these indicators, right? So how do you get these lines, these horizontal lines on there? You just literally have to manually put them in. So come to the Discord. We call upon our AI bot to give us this information. We're going to take zero gamma at 572 on the SPY chart. Boom, we already got it. I already put that one in, okay? So this is the line this is the Rufio line in the sand. And if we're below this, bears are in control. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we are going to put the put wall at 560. So that means once we get below 560, we better start looking to maybe take some longs. Now, it doesn't matter what news is going on. We need to be looking for longs here. So horizontal ray, put wall. That's all we care about for now. We want to see this flip up above this before we start taking huge equity long leaps. Until we cross this zero gamma, we want to just stay like 3 weeks, 6 weeks out, something like that. Because all we're doing right now is just getting these little rips up, and then we need to sell them. So we only want exposure for like a week or two, and then we're out. Just take your money. Now realize like how we play the options, like, okay, for SPY. We use like SPXL, for instance, which is 3x the leverage of SPY. So, for instance, we ended here last week. If we get back up to zero gamma, that's basically a 3% move next week or the following. So in a couple weeks-ish. I'm guessing by next week we're probably going to hit that. But on SPXL, that's 3 times that. So it's actually 9% move. But we're also doing call options, so it's also super leveraged past that. So if you get a 3% move, which would be 9% on SPXL, your options are going to multiply. You're not only going to get 9%, you're multiplying your money. The cheapest way to play this, though, is if you do SPXS, the ticker SPXS. Why? Because the options are cheap. If you're new, just go that way. Like, you can get exposure for like $5, right? You can buy a call and put options on those for like $5. You know, I mean, literally anybody can play and get started in the stock market by just swinging the 3x ETFs. And all you're gonna do, come in here. You can come in every day if you want, get this data, and then just readjust. But most of the time, Fridays, you can put the dates, right? So Fridays and the end of the months are always the most amount of volume. So a couple times a week, just look up the gamma, find out where we're actually at. If we're way below zero, well, might be looking for a long to rebalance at least and get a relief rally. If it crosses and starts back testing, and this keeps climbing up, which is the call wall, or we're getting close to this, you might want to start de-risk and take your profit. That's it. We're just playing these levels. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Another way to look at this is you can literally look up like JP Morgan. They have to disclose basically their lines, their resistance and support. So they have something called a collar. We're just gonna call it support though. Their support is literally almost where we ended last week. So if we hit the bottom of their support next week, it's only 0.27 down. If we open up red on Monday, I am what? Buying calls. Keep in mind, we still have, get off there. We still have this big gap here though. But guess what? That's the cool thing about gaps too. Remember this gap in price action? This is on SPX. SPY is the same one. Guess what? The put walls and call walls usually end up where? Gaps. That's why gaps are usually the easiest way to play. If you refuse to try to learn this gamma stuff, literally just find the gaps and just know that once we fill one, we get a little bit in it, start going the rebalance direction, reversion to mean, right? So we want to buy calls once this gets filled. So my hope is next week, Monday and Tuesday, are just super red and we fill this gap down to here, because then we are below JP Morgan's support, and he ain't going to let that happen. Okay? Trillions of dollars at hand. The big boys, BlackRock, all of them. You can look up their collars or spreads, all that stuff. Just follow that. So follow the big boys with gamma. You can see these big old lines. Or look up like JP Morgan collar. Literally just put them on just like we did the horizontal lines for zero gamma in the put wall. Just do the same exact thing, but for the JP Morgan collar. Then you'll know. If it's down there, gonna what? Taking along, baby. I don't know why that's not working. But start buying equity. You can even buy equity here, or you can do about like 3 to 6 weeks out calls on the 3X ETFs. I think that's easily the best way to play that. As for thinking of like the world and the tariffs, what tariffs are not priced in at this point? That's my question. I mean, we're yo-yoing every other day with today 25%, today, tomorrow maybe 50%. Depends on how I'm feeling. I think tariffs are pretty much priced in at this point. The fact we haven't even broke like what we were at in 2 weeks ago. We haven't even broke the low in 2 weeks with all the terrible news going on. I think we're about ready for a bigger rally here. If we zoom out, it doesn't look too scary when you zoom out. This is not loading for me here, but long-term trends, I mean, it looks like kind of just a breathe, that we have going on for SPY, etc. Let's see if this one, there we go. You can zoom out here, get you a 2x4 and throw her on up. Okay, we're gonna have maybe some resistance up in there. You could do something like that. Even here, we could come down and get even more bloody down to here. There's some areas of confluence down like we're at like 555, but 545 if we keep bleeding out. Basically, we do not want to breach the low of last month. Last month as in March, because it's going to be April, right? So as long as we're above this, I'm at least short-term, mid-term bullish. If we break this, just freaking watch out below. Honestly, if we break this gap here, watch out below. But I mean, that's kind of where this is at anyway. But I think as long as we're above, like on SPX, 5,500, as long as we're above 5,500, I think bulls are ready. We're already doing huge war stuff. We're already doing tariffs. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? As for how Donald Trump is doing on the crypto, the World Liberty Financial Holdings, which is him, his sons, and Barron and all that. Well, they're down 82.56%. And this is just from January, you know. So February, I guess, because they injected a bunch of liquidity here in February into January when they were announcing it and all that, trying to pump everything and coming up with the meme coins that are dropping on everybody. Just keep that in mind. You know, don't beat yourself up here. I really think that, especially in crypto, everything is stupid cheap as far as the alts. BTC, no. But all this other stuff like they have in here, the alts, if you don't have any exposure to crypto, just get Kraken or Coinbase or both, and just buy some spot in like all these other ones like Ondo, ENA, AV, Ethereum, of course, TRX, Link. There's their portfolio. Does anyone have any questions with any of that? Shrek said, would be a perfect stop hunt below that low, though. He's totally right. You know, he's saying if we get... let me zoom in here. If we get below this low from like the 15th or whatever of March, what he's getting at is there is, who knows, billions of dollars of stops probably right there. So he's saying if he was a market maker, he would do what? He'd go like this. He'd get real buck nasty and just go blap right below it. Tons of liquidity here. Billions of loss. And then what? Then just up, right? But again, JP Morgan callers usually are a sticking ground, if not really damn close. So we'll see. I'm with them. If I want to go super nasty, I would do that. But the amount of liquidity and money it would take to do that, you know, there's going to be at least a handful of hedge funds that are going to have to get together to make that happen, to beat out, like, you know, a couple of the real big dogs, the dudes with the trillions, not the billions now. But yeah, regardless, I think we're ready for a bounce. If you want to go to like LOA theory, okay, we ended the week at exactly like the 0.79, you know, so I think at least we get a relief rally of the backside fib on that. So the target for SPX next week or the next couple weeks, we're going to be looking at basically right here, this old gap top. So 0.7, the 0.618. So around like 570. So if they're going to continue taking this thing lower, this thing is going to get stopped here. Just going to get bull-nosed, and then we'll go down and take out this liquidity down here, the 545 and stuff I was talking about. But regardless, that's still a big move for next week or the following, right? That's still a 2.5%, but on the 3Xs, it's 7.5%, and then you do the options, and then, you know, 3 or 4X on the options if you catch that, if you caught that on Friday. Best times to get, like, if you only want to play this as little as possible, I would say, like, the end of the first week of every month, just put in these levels that we're talking about here, and just play the contrarian of it. Remember, though, for time, like, stocks, time-wise, go up about 60% of the time left to right. So, you know, always have more exposure to calls versus puts, because you're already winning if you're betting at 60% of the time. Stuff's going to go up, right? Play it as you will. I'm still optimistic to see, especially in crypto, that I think we're going to get all-time highs on, you know, most of these alts for sure. Okay. These are stupid easy buys at the discounted levels they're at. If not, there are tons of stonks that you could buy here. Like the chips, the Qs, stuff like that. You can start cherry picking everything. Utilities are still really cheap, and if you want to get into like utility stuff, like find American-owned like utility type of companies. I'm talking like you can get like oil, gas, or commodity. Like even uranium's looking cheap right now. You know, so let's see if I can't. Here we go. Like there's some lower chip micro cap places we're looking at. Like one here is Zeta, 13, high at 38. You know, less than a month ago. Energy stuff too. You got Oxy. You know, this is like the love child of Mr. Buffett, right? This is a gas and oil play. I mean, this is a total bull flag here. Just easy buy. I've been buying spot and leaps here on the down days and all that. So I'm super bullish on oil and gas. I don't know how anyone wouldn't be. Coal's actually still pretty cheap. China, it's already had its rally. We were buying, you know, down here and stuff. We've sold, and I'm mostly out of China right now, but I still think China has a big future. Wow, look at this chart. Holy Toledo. Yeah, this is yen if you're interested in this, but this is curling up. It's got a long ways to go. I'm also big on food right now, like SPTN. Okay, so we got to eat. This is mostly like America type of food and delivery and all that. $20 a share, you know. Land, this has had some great rallies. We've been surfing this one. This is mostly like American farmland. Look at this chart. It's at $10, high of 42. What's up, Don? Good to see you, brother. Any tickers you want me to look at? Let me know. I will gladly take a look. Even stuff like Intel is stupid cheap, man. $20, 22 a share. I mean, AMD's even cheap right now. I'm staying away from like physical retailers though. Kind of bearish on those. Video game stuff, you know, Unity. I don't know if Rockstar, you know, Rockstar is the one that's putting out the Grand Theft Auto. I don't know how they're doing. Take-Two, I think. Is that who owns Rockstar now? Find out here in a second. Probably, yeah. So yeah, like the Rockstar Bros, they're super high, but then you take something Confluence that, which is Unity U. Well, you know, way better buy here. You can buy Unity at $20 a share. So I think that's something to look at. Hey Don, you still in quantum? I think he is. I think this is one we did. Yeah, the qubits. I think it's the one we were talking about. That. Yeah, look at that. That's beautiful. This was actually SPAC-alicious. This was one of the SPAC queens during the Cool Kid 2021 days. You know, imagine buying this in the dollar-ish range. You know, and now it's been over 10 and it's just flying. Quantum's still doing really good. Shout out to Dawn for getting us into the quantum way back in the day. I know we were playing with it when it was still floored out at the SPAC Bro days, but I don't remember when I made my video that Dawn actually produced, but I know he held and made a ton of money, so good for him. What's up, Z Easy? Good to see you. Dawn's asking, we've traded any OTCs? Yes, some. OTCs, let's call it like the black market of the stock market. It's like companies that aren't cool enough or rich enough to be on the NASDAQ. There's a lot more shadery going on in OTCs though. I've met and talked with many supposed CEOs from OTC companies, and a lot of them are super duper shady. That's all I'll say about that. He said that market was great 4 years ago. Yeah, he's still in quantum. He said he nailed MLGO last week. Let's take a look at that. Whoa. Micro algo. Holy. This thing has been in the thousands. Man, they've had to dilute this, or they had to do a split, I'm guessing, a couple times here. But, dude, if you nailed that, we're down to $17 now. What is this? Is this a quantum play? Nice. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that would have been one to get in. Yeah, so he, I'm guessing, was buying in the low ones, 1, 2, 3, or 5 or something. But, dude, that thing is just zipping. So we've been talking about that, and even in the crypto space too. Like, I still think like AI is definitely the future, but AI is not going to actually be totally usable. I don't know if you've tried AI anything, but most of it just sucks still. The only way it's going to be usable in my eyes is if we integrate and impregnate it with quantum computing, because it just is not smart at all. Like, it's better off being random, if you ask me at this point. From the search results to, photos, like it's terrible for the most part. Maybe 1% of it might be helpful, but I just don't see it working without quantum. So what? That's why I still think quantum is still in its micro infancy, even though we've seen moves like this. But this shows you, if this is doing this in March, I mean, come on. I'm happy for you. Well, hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this Saturday education plan and kind of market outlook. To answer with that, I'm short-term bullish for next week and the week before. But again, if I could, I would actually love if Shrek was right and we actually just fell down and took out this low liquidity from the 15th of March. Then I'll really go heavy on some calls to get some nice rebounds. But we definitely need clarification, though, to see what reaction we're going to have on Monday, Tuesday, and we'll just go from there. If you're not in the Discord, there is a link down below to join. I hope to see y'all there, and thanks for coming out.